Good evening. I'd like to open the public hearing of council pertaining to bylaw number 18-09, and it's at 7 p.m. November 7th in Strathmore Municipal Town Office. This public hearing is held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act RSA 2000, Chapter M-26 and amendments thereto, and I hereby declare the public hearing relating to bylaw number 18-09 now open at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw 1809 amends separation distances between cannabis stores and schools and eliminates separation distances between cannabis stores and schools where they are where they are on opposite sides of Highway 1. Advertisements for bylaw 1809 were published in the Strathmore Times on October 12th and 19th, 2018, and the bylaw was also posted on the Town of Strathmore website.
Thank you. And just for the public who are here and watching at home, Councillor Peterson has stated she may have a conflict of interest, so she has removed herself from this procedure. The following rules of conduct will be followed during the public hearing. Presentation should be brief and to the point and shall be limited to 3 minutes in length. The order of presentation shall be the administration, those in favor of the bylaw, those opposed to the bylaw, any other person deemed to be affected by the bylaw. Council may ask questions of the speakers after each presentation for clarification purposes, and there will be no debating the bylaw. Mr. Fisher, are you presenting? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. As stated by Mrs. Sawatsky, I think the intent of the bylaw is fairly clear. I will not discuss it further unless you have specific questions. I would point out that we did receive one Facebook message that is reflected on page 122 of your agenda package, just under the blue type. And it indicated that there was a concern about the proximity of the schoolyard to development on the south side of the highway.
Thank you. Jennifer, just for clarification, you have in favor here. I'm asking if anyone wants to speak in favor of it. Thank you. Are there any? Is there any in the audience tonight who wishes to speak in favor of bylaw number 18-09? As far as opposed, is anyone in the audience who wishes to speak who's opposed to this bylaw? Let's come forward. Does the administration have any comments? Thank you. Is there anyone present who supports the bylaw who wishes to speak? Is there anyone present who opposes the bylaw who wishes to speak? Is there anyone present deemed to be affected by the bylaw who wishes to speak? Do the councillors have any questions or comments? Questions, I imagine. I see none. Are there any further speakers?
Sorry, Your Worship, there was
Councillor Sobel.
I'm sorry, there was one question. So, Mr. Fisher, if I could, I noticed in the report summary there's a notation in regards to the storefront school and the 50 meter separation distance.
Yes.
This bylaw, does that affect that 50?
No.
So
It's there for clarification, just to provide a more complete picture of what we've got.
So we have 125 for all schools
Except for the
storefront.
Except for the one downtown, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. Werner, can you tell me how many meters it is from I'm assuming it's the Catholic school that's kind of the problem here? How many meters is it from like the Catholic school to the
Say
stores
Edo's?
across? Yeah.
About 80.
Okay.
I would say subject to check, but it's about 80.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Are there any further questions from council? Deputy Mayor Bauer?
I don't have a question. I have a comment at this point. May I do that? Your worship?
No, sorry, I guess we don't have
Okay.
comments now. This is just for questions. So if there are no other questions, I hereby declare this public hearing for bylaw number 18-09 closed at 7:06 PM, and will accept the motion to adjourn it. Councillor Corbeil.
I move to adjourn the public meeting.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Yep. Do you want to take a vote? That brings us to the confirmation of agenda for the regular public meeting. And are there any emergent items that any of the councillors may have to bring forward to the agenda? Anything from administration?
Yes, Your Worship. We have one matter that we would like to move forward, up on the agenda. It's item 7.8, Traffic Safety Program. If we can move that to item 4.1, that would be great.
Thank you, Jen. No other additions or changes? Then I'm looking for a motion to confirm the agenda as amended. Councillor Corbeil.
I move the agenda as amended.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? Motion is carried. And brings us to item 3, presentations and recognitions. And the first one is 3.1 Minister's Award for Excellent, the 2018 Partnership Honorable Mention Award. Lisa, you have it, I have your name on the sheet, but this is something that you want. Yep, okay, thank you. We'll get it right. I think many of you know in the audience and at home, if there's 3 or 4 of you watching, we had a really, yeah, your grandchildren is right. We had a really good project idea brought to us quite a while back by Mr. Bevan Davern from Golden Hills School Division, and the idea came forward to partner and find a way to get a new K-9 school approved, and the idea of partnering between Wheatland County, the school division, and the town of Strathmore grew and became to be a very successful entity. Not only did we get the new K-9 school and sports center approved, and it's almost totally complete, but we were able to win, or able to be recognized at an award, for an award, and it was the Minister's Awards for Municipal Excellence, 2018 Partnership Honorable Mention. And so what we've got here is we've got some presentations to make. We'd like to call forward the members representing Golden Hills School Division, Wheatland County, Polyco, and the town of Strathmore. And we have a little presentation for each of those groups. So we would like to thank those 3 groups, Golden Hills for initially starting the project and being a part of contributing $2 million to the project. Wheatland County had stepped up as well and contributed $3 million, and some in-kind services as well with that. And the town of Strathmore, Polyco was very instrumental in providing land and being a good partner, a very good partner in helping this project come to fruition and completion. So if I could have representatives from those 3 groups come on up for a little photo opportunity, we'd like to recognize and thank you for the partnership in making this project so successful. And this is the part where some councillors will fight me, but I would like to have all of council come up and we can make a presentation and have a chance to have a photograph together.
On my phone, I'm gonna try.
Thank you, Reeve. Thank you.
Golden Hills School Division.
You should mention that Counselor Solomon was the one responsible for applying for the award.
We want to thank Wheatland County, Golden Hills School Division, and Polyco again for their help and partnership in this project. And on behalf of the town of Strathmore and council, I wanted to congratulate Amber Ling for being named Reeve of Wheatland County. We look forward to working with you. I think your council and our council have a lot in common, and we found common ground, and I think there's a spirit of enthusiasm between the two groups too, so we hope to build on this. I'd also like to thank Councillor Sobel for bringing the idea to apply for this award, and it was something that I think recognizes and celebrates the work that every group did for this, so thank you, Councillor Sobel. And anytime you feel like you want to get away, we totally understand if you have other things that are much, much more fun to do than watch us in the rest of this meeting. If that's possible, yeah, because we are a pretty fun council at times. We have... Right up to there, it sounded so good. We have another award that's going to be presented tonight. This time, Councillor Montgomery is going to be involved, and it is the Downtown Vitalization Committee Downtown Business Recognition Award. So, Councillor Montgomery, did you want to say a few words?
Actually, I'll let Deputy.
Okay,
Bauer
perfect.
on this.
Every year, the town of Strathmore gives out an award to recognize a downtown business that has gone over and above in welcoming people to their store, making the outside an inviting place to be, and creating an atmosphere that is in line with our town of Strathmore values. And Back to Good has done exactly this. They have created an outdoor space on their sidewalk, which is welcoming. It allows people to sit, have a cup of coffee, perhaps a cup of soup or a sandwich, and they have added flowers and other types of greenery out there just to really enhance their space. And I think not only has it helped to bring in business, but it's sent a message to other downtown businesses that this is something that you can do too, that the town of Strathmore really does support this. So I would like to just ask Nicole Cordes, if she's here, to please come up and accept this award. Other members of the committee to come up because you were instrumental in making sure that this happened, and we all voted for you. So thank you very much. Let's just all move over to the center. All the way in. All the way in. Chuck, further. A little bit more.
Melanie, you're still in if you want to. Thanks.
Good choice.
Thank you, and congratulations once again to Back to Good Whole Foods and Deli, and thank you to the committee and the councillors who are on that committee. I think the town of Strathmore and its administration and staff have worked hard to really try to bring some good things to the downtown area. We have a definite plan in place. We've increased multi-unit and density of living downtown. We've done some work on 2nd and 3rd Avenue, and we have other plans that are in the works that we hope to have happening and coming up for public knowledge in 2019. So thank you for all that and congratulations. And that brings us to Item 4.1, thank you, Councillor Corby. That's why I'm glad you sit next to me. We have the traffic safety program. And if you wouldn't mind stepping forward and just introducing yourself.
Okay. Thank you, Your Worship. My name is Martin Wiseman. I am the chair of the Traffic Advisory Committee. Perfect. Thank you. Do I have a...
There we go, sorry. You just have to use these.
Yep, that's fine. Okay. So as I say, my name is Martin Wiseman. I am the chair of the Traffic Advisory Committee here in Strathmore. I'm sure, Your Worship, that everyone is aware of the good work that the committee has done. The committee was tasked by this council to improve road safety, reduce collisions. Now, on that subject, here on my wonderful PowerPoint presentation, these are our successes in 2018. Your Worship, as you know, the painting of the school crosswalks to make them more visible has received rave reviews. We even got on the front page of the newspaper, which was nice. 2 new radar speed signs have had a really positive effect in areas of the town, just to make drivers aware of their speed. And we also initiated 2 40-kilometre-an-hour zones, Cambridge Glen Drive and Centre Street, which again are proving to be successful. So following on from those 2018 projects, we have devised 2 initiatives for 2019. The main one, I would say, is the programmable school zone beacons. So just to give a little more information on these, this idea first came to light through a study in Australia, Queensland, Australia, whereby they are using these programmable school zone beacons. I'm sure everyone in this room has issues with knowing when the school zones are in force. It's very hard to see the sign. We all know that we can't do anything about it because the 817 is a provincial highway. So these beacons are an amazing opportunity to make drivers aware of when these speed zones are in play. I mentioned about the Queensland, Australia project that was done. Now, they sampled 600 motorists in Queensland. They initiated this project, and they found that 98% of respondents to this survey agreed that flashing school zone signs help them determine when lower speed limits apply. For our part, we also did a questionnaire here in Strathmore. We surveyed 314 Strathmore residents over a 10-day period in September of this year. The results were interesting. 35% of respondents said that they either did not know or sort of knew what the times of the school zones were. 65% claimed that they did know the exact hours. Now, what I would point out is that we didn't ask them to tell us what those school zone times were. So I'm not sure if it would actually be that high. Everyone thinks they know, but they probably don't. I think the main thing that came from the Strathmore survey, 83.4% of respondents did say that they believed that flashing beacons would help them determine when the school zones were in effect. The second initiative that we're looking at for 2019 is portable changeable copy signs. So an example of these, Your Worship, Oh, okay. I'm just going to jump to that. So it's kind of these signs where it's encouraging drivers to think about what they're doing, basically. We have a lot of different example, kind of quirky things, just to make people think. And again, research does show that these signs do make people think. It kind of stays with them. So this is the second initiative that we're looking at. Just to return to the first initiative, this gives you an idea of what these programmable school beacons look like. So the plan is to have them mounted on the school zone sign, and they will automatically start flashing when that school zone is in effect. Something else that I think is important, we've received communication from local law enforcement. When they stop drivers who are speeding in the school zone, they claim that they didn't know that the school zone was in effect. There is no driver could turn around and say, I did not know the school zone was in effect. We have a beacon. The plan is to keep the school zone times up on display, just in case the beacon happens to malfunction. It shouldn't do, but just to kind of cover that scenario. So what I'm here on behalf of the committee to ask the council, your worship, is for funding to the tune of $40,000 to cover these beacons in all school zones throughout Strathmore, and also the portable changeable copy signs. I think that's it.
Thank you, Martin. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Peterson?
I just have a question, Your Worship, through the chair to administration. We had a discussion about this in terms of the funding that we would make available for this. This isn't the first time this has come before council. And normally we would take a budget item like this and we would put it in our 2019 budget. But if you can refresh my memory, it already was discussed before, I think. And we understood that this was going to form part of our 2019 budget. I recall it.
If I may respond?
Right.
My airplane just landed. Councillor Sobel?
I'm just wondering if you're confusing this application or request with a request by the committee to apply for a $25,000 grant through traffic? No, the committee's not made any requests for funding for these two projects in the past, if that's the question.
What I remember, Councillor Sobel, is that when we discussed the initial beacons that were put out, we discussed the need to have more, and that we would bring this forward into the 2019 budget. That's what I'm just, and so my point is that normally we would address this during our budget talks. What I'm understanding is we already addressed it, that it would be in the 2019.
But not for these.
Not for those two different ones?
So these are focused only on school zones,
Okay.
Councillor Peterson, and the other ones were not
Necessarily
part of-
school zones?
No, that's correct.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you, Worship. How much are the programmable beacons, like how many school zones will you be able to do for 25,000?
We have worked out every school zone in town.
Okay.
Initially, we were looking at school zones and playground zones, but realistically, thinking of finances, it's school zones where we have the issue in town. Playground zones are fairly straightforward. School zones are not. So it would be every school zone in town.
Okay. And who would be responsible for moving the changeable copy sign around? Would that be the town?
Councillor Sobel, do you have an answer?
I could answer that.
Thank you.
No, this would be, the sign is through a private company. And they would
Okay.
be responsible. It's a monthly charge.
Okay.
And this would be for 1 year, basically a 1 year, I think the concept is a 1 year pilot project. 12 months, 12 different signs. And they would be changed every month, but they would be at the same location.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay. I do see the merit in the programmable school zone beacons. I'm not quite as sure about the portable changeable copy signs, but I think it's a good cause.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Sobel?
So, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Martin, for that presentation. I'm hoping council found it as informative as I did. Just one question. So, the money you're asking for is I just want you to clarify this, is in addition to the $25,000 grant that this council approved, and that $25,000 is basically all, if it's successful, all that money would go towards the Beacon program.
Yes, correct. Yeah, I apologise, Your Worship. I failed to mention about the $25,000 grant that we will obtain from the Government of Alberta.
Thank you for that clarification. Deputy Mayor Bauer?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to ask you, Martin, if I could, what were the statistics with the sign versus, well, the programmable school zone beacons, I completely agree that will make a change in driver behavior. But what about the statistics to back up the portable changeable copy sign? Because I'm looking at some of these things that you could put on, and I'm thinking, well, for Wheatland Trail to say this is not a expletive freeway might get some people's attention, but is it going to get them to change their behavior?
If I may answer the question, Your Worship. Personally, I think when we've discussed this, the committee has discussed it, it's kind of, it could almost be a pilot project. Let's see what effect this has, because from what we've researched, it has had a positive effect in other areas. As you quite rightly say, Wheatland Trail, people need to be reminded, you're not on some sort of freeway. Let's take pride in our driving, in our town. Let's not drive like everyone does in the city. Let's be proud of our town. Let's be proud of how we drive in our town, and let's make sure that we keep our roads safe. So whatever we have to do to get that, to achieve that, I think that this would be a good start. And I think it's obviously very difficult to gauge the success rate, but certainly, we've done quite a few surveys with residents of Strathmore. We could even do a survey finding out, well, what do residents think of this? And if it's favourable, then, as Councillor Sobel mentioned, this is for 1 year. But if it's favourable with feedback that we get from residents, then maybe this is something that we could look at.
I would support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bauer. Councillor Peterson?
Your Worship, prior to bringing forth a motion on this subject, I would like to ask the committee if it's reasonable to make the motion to allocate the $40,000 from the 2019 budget pending approval of the $25,000. That would be added. I'm prepared to make a motion, Your Worship.
Thank you.
I would move that council adopt the traffic safety program for 2019 and allocate $40,000 into the 2019 budget toward the traffic safety program to be taken from the 2019 federal gas tax, and that the $40,000 allocation would be allocated upon receipt of the $25,000 grant contribution for programmable school zone beacons.
Thank you for that, Councillor Peterson. Jen, have you been able to get all that, or Lisa?
And Your Worship, if I may speak to the motion. what the Traffic Commission has accomplished so far in our community is it's impressive, and the feedback that this council has received speaks to that. Paulette Chudowitz, the principal of Sacred Heart Academy, came the other day to speak to me and talked about the crosswalk initiative that you had put forward, talked about the significant difference it had made, and she talked about other issues that they face in terms of having staff park vehicles in front of the crosswalks to protect children and to make sure that nothing and all of the things that they've done. She said, what would make the biggest difference in this is if we had a beacon. And so it is possibly, the west side of Sacred Heart Academy is possibly the busiest, most concentrated area for small children that we have in our community. And however, all children everywhere in our community are of enormous value. And I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that's gone into this, and how you've broken it down for us, and the mindfulness that it's come to council with. I really appreciate it, and I'm very supportive of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Sobel?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few very short comments. First, in regards to the signage project that is being considered. This is strictly, very clearly one that is going to be very difficult to judge the effectiveness of it. It's an educational, but it is an educational project, very clearly. And it's meant to bring attention to a person's driving habits and some of the more dangerous habits that people gather and use in our community. This would not be new to our community. It's being used in a number of cities, especially in the United States, and they have found it very, very successful in that it just brings attention to how people drive and what their habits are. And interestingly enough, it follows in the footprints of the SWAT, the Strathmore Wheatland Addictions Team project that began a number of years ago and has been very well reported in our community, where they have actually in our community they have 2 signs that deal with very short statements in regards to drug abuse. So it's an interesting concept, and it's just one to bring attention to some of the more dangerous habits that people take part in. In regards to the beacons, one of the problems that the committee faces on a regular basis is the very low pedestrian collision rate that we have, and that's something that we should be proud of. But I'm just so proud of this committee because their attitude towards this issue is that it's never going to be low enough, and you always want to get it reduced. So in spite of the fact that our numbers are low, we want to reduce that even further. We like to have a year where we have no pedestrian collisions, and that's what the goal is. So the committee's going to do everything they can to within reason to ensure that our motoring public is aware that, especially in our school zones where our most vulnerable and valuable assets walk daily, that they know they've got to slow down, and I think this is an amazing way to do that. The committee is working very, very closely with our administration, and I just want to thank our administration for all the work that they've done on this. They've been with this project every step of the way and continue to provide an immense amount of support to the committee and certainly support this project. And I think that is all I have. Those are all my comments, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. You've heard the motion that's on the floor. All in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you, Martin, and thank you to your committee and to our staff and administration. And Martin, I can sense when you come, you have a lot of passion for this, and I love the fact that your committee's brought a lot of ideas that are progressive to the community. Thank you. Which brings us to item 5, confirmation of minutes. 5.1, the organizational meeting minutes for October 17th, 2018, on page 5. Thank you, Councillor Corbeil.
I move council adopt the organizational meeting minutes for October 17th, 2018 as presented.
Thank you very much. You've heard the motion on the floor. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 5.2, regular council meeting minutes for October 17th, 2018, on page 10. Thank you, Councillor Corbeil.
I don't. I move the council adopts the regular council meeting minutes for October 17th, 2018 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 5.3, special meeting minutes for October 24th, 2018. Deputy Mayor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that council adopt the special meeting minutes for October 24th, 2018 as presented.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Item 6, we have no tabled items, and we move on to item 7, items from administration. 7.1, temporary road and parking closure policy number 3302 on page 21. Mr. Fisher, welcome again.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council may recall at the October 3rd meeting, a suggestion that this matter be referred to the Downtown Design Review Committee. We did that, and based on that meeting, we've added a section 11.3 that provides a little more clarity around downtown road closures. And regrettably, I would like to propose one minor amendment to, on page 29, section 7.1. It says, under emergencies and other exceptions, it says, despite any provision to the contrary in this policy, the director may impose a quota on B, a downtown road or portion thereof, if, 2, the director considers it reasonable and appropriate to do so. At the end of that sentence, I would like to say, subject to Part 11. It ties the two sections together. To Part 11. I would say part. The whole thing. That way it's clear. Sorry about that.
Thank you for that clarification, Orner. Are there any questions from council for Mr. Fisher? If not, then I'll entertain a motion. Councillor Montgomery.
Well, first I just wanted to thank Mr. Fisher for coming to the DVC and taking some feedback on this, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I guess I will move that we adopt policy number 3302 with amendments.
Jennifer, do you need the specific amendment that's being made, the wording that Mr. Fisher had suggested?
Yes, please, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Peterson?
It's under 7.1, B2, to add on to the end of the sentence, subject to section 11.
Part 11?
Sorry, subject to Part 11.
So does that become a friendly amendment then, Jen? Or does that become a different amendment? Or yeah, okay. All right. Thank you very much, Councillor Peterson. So you've heard the motion with the amendment. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. Item 7.2, eligible trees and shrubs for Strathmore on page 39. Mr. Fisher, welcome back.
This will probably be the longest presentation of the evening that I intend to make. This project started out as a chapter in the engineering and servicing standards. I was asked to write that last fall, and these two tables were intended to be incorporated into that document. And I appreciate the opportunity to bring this forward sooner than later. It's something that has been a bit of a thorn in my side, and I think a lot of other development officers, planners who are, front line at the counter, and somebody comes in with a drawing and it says Colorado spruce. Well, which one is it? There's dozens of varieties, and some will work and some won't. It goes almost without saying that applies to almost every tree. So in most places, most municipalities will have a list of trees and shrubs, but it's usually just limited to the genus. Like it'll say juniper, but you don't know whether if it's going to be a juniper that's going to grow 6 inches high, or if it's going to be something like a Young's juniper that grows about 4 feet high. And depending on where you plant that, you plant it near the intersection, the entrance to a commercial property, then you can have some visibility issues. There's a whole bunch of shrubs that follow into that category, and there's a whole bunch of trees. So that was the triggering thing, and this is the product. There was 2 tables. The 2 tables in turn triggered the production of the brochure, which is a more summary. There's still some minor tweaking to be done to this, and it will be professionally printed probably next week once we make those tweaks. I would really like to recognize and appreciate the contribution that Carla Coates made to the preparation of the brochure, as well as Donna McCallum in reviewing a lot of this stuff. So, as indicated, this is a bit unique. I haven't seen any other municipality do it, and I'm also beginning to understand why. Because it was a little more challenging than I thought, because you really have to try and sift through the conflicting information and then make an educated guess on what's going to work here rather than somewhere else. So that's...
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Are there any questions, Councillor Montgomery? Oh, thanks. Any questions for Mr. Fisher? Deputy Mayor Bauer?
Thank you, Your Worship. Werner, I was just wondering if any of the local horticulture or businesses that provide trees to this area were consulted on this, specifically like Eagle Lake.
If you look on page 59, wait a minute. Sorry. Page 60 of the agenda package, item 6.
How did I miss that?
Item 5. Those
Okay.
are all the references that I used to refer to. And if
Great.
you look on any of the, in column 2, whether it's the trees or shrubs, anywhere you see ELN, that's Eagle Lake Nursery, Mill Creek Nursery, American Conifer Society, City of Calgary Yard Smart, the City of Calgary Land Use Bylaw, Medicine Hat, Airdrie, Okotoks, whatever. There's a whole...
I think this is
plaque of them.
really amazing that you were able to not only include different people from the area, but that you went to such great lengths to make sure that you got your information correct. So thank you very much.
I tried to get it right, thank you.
Councillor Cox?
Your Worship, I'm prepared to move a motion that council accept this report, the 2 tables and brochure for information and discussion, and that council directs staff to reconcile and confirm the amount of security that is required to ensure that landscaping is carried out as a condition of a development permit.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Is there any discussion or comments? Councillor Sobel?
Actually, I was going to ask this question before the motion was made. I need some help with trying to figure out what number 2 is about, the second motion.
Well, we have a conflict at the moment. Our standard development agreement was amended about a year or so ago, if you may recall.
Yep.
We brought it forward.
Yep.
Prior to that time, it was only 10%. And 15% at the time was seen as a significant change. Our land use bylaw allows us to go up to 100%, but we've never gone above 10%. And we're still finding even at 15%, people are saying, it ain't worth it. And so,
You've answered my question.
Okay.
So you and I, we're not talking about the same kind of security. You're talking about a financial security, and I'm thinking about a policeman.
Yeah.
So that's, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Councillor Peterson.
I just, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to express my appreciation for this. Your expertise is amazing in this area. We've always known that. And to see this come to fruition in this way, what a great resource for our community going forward, and I am so appreciative.
Thank you.
And I
very
wish
much.
we'd have had it before somebody planted northwest poplars in my backyard. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I would echo that too, and obviously you can see around town sometimes trees were planted that grew to a much bigger height than expected, and they've had to cut half trees away because of power lines. So this is going to be an excellent resource. Councillor Corbio.
Thank you, Your Worship. I echo my fellow councillors' comments. I appreciate the ton of work that went into this package. It was very informative. Yeah, it was great. The only thing that I would like to see, and not even so much as for this, I'm glad that we're bringing unity and some kind of organization to the town. I hope we see it on our side as well. Like when the developers come in, I hope that they are treated the same way as we're treating them. But I'm blown away. This was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Corbio. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I just wanted to echo my fellow councillors as well and say thank you very much, Werner. You've done a great job as usual, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Councillor Sobel.
Thank you, and for allowing me a second shot at this with hopefully a more intelligent question. So will this from here, does this go into the land use bylaw?
No, it won't be in the land use bylaw. There will be, the land use bylaws will be completely rewritten with respect to landscaping standards. That's stuff that I think
So
will.
then it will go in there?
But no, the two tables are intended to be in the engineering and servicing standards.
Okay.
So that if we're developing parks or trees or boulevards or whatever, this is kind of what we're looking at. Now, keep in mind that we've tried to pick drought-resistant, Chinook tolerant in all cases. There might be the odd case where we plant something in a swampy, marshy area that, like a willow or something, or even a birch that's going to be tolerant. The other reason for it is that we put it in the servicing standards. We haven't provided any details, other than it's a spruce tree. Well, what kind of spruce tree is it? So that's the intent, so that you have a better understanding of what it is you're approving.
Mm-hmm.
There's been drive-throughs that have, placed the wrong kind of spruce tree in the island, and then
Yeah.
you cut the branches off the bottom, and it still doesn't solve the problem.
Absolutely. Okay, so this will not be coming back to us, no?
No, at
It'll
least
go-
not, until you see the engineering and servicing standards. Now,
Right,
what I would
okay.
like to do from this is do kind of what Calgary did with some limitations, is have a list of trees and shrubs, potentially, in the land use bylaw that would be considered low-water trees and shrubs, so that if you're planting those, you wouldn't need irrigation.
Right.
There would be no requirement for underground irrigation. Now, that's a conversation that we haven't had, because we typically don't ask people to underground irrigate, but moving forward, I think on larger projects, it's something we should consider.
At any rate, it's a great piece of work, and you should probably copyright that, because I can imagine municipalities in the area will be clamoring to get copies of it. And speaking of which, my last question is to administration. Once this is reprinted and fixed up the way it's supposed to, whatever is acceptable to administration, can we get this on our website? I think this would be a great report to have, great information piece on our website as well. Thank you.
That certainly is the intent, both the brochure and the tables.
Thank you, Councillor, and again, thank you, Mr. Fisher, for all your work on this. You've heard the motion that's on the floor. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Which brings us to item 7.4, the Strathmore Gymnastics Center, which is paid. Did I miss one? Sorry. 7.3, my apologies. Page 73, Family Violence Prevention Month. Councillor Corbio.
I'm prepared with a motion. I move that council proclaim November 2018 Family Violence Prevention Month in Strathmore.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. Are there any comments? Are there any comments Any questions for Tracy that you might want to ask? The only one I had, Tracy, if I want you to feel like you belong. Could you just, I read it in here, but okay, there it is, on November 21st. That's the day where Strathmore goes purple. And that our communication department will be getting that information out to people, obviously?
Correct, yeah. So the town of Strathmore as an internal corporation is going to be doing a Go Purple event on the 21st, which is also a council night, so we encourage participation. And we're also going to be putting information out into the public on how organizations and schools and communities can participate in the campaign.
Thank you, Tracy. So if there are no other comments, you've heard the motion on the floor. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And now it brings us to the Strathmore Gymnastics Center, page 78. And welcome, Carly Flaws is coming forward to address us. So welcome.
Thank you, Council, for having us back again. So I just want to share with you some things that have happened with the Gymnastics Center since we spoke to Council back in September. We've had a very successful couple of months with our fundraising and our organizational preparations for the opening of the new Strathmore Gymnastics Center, which will be in early January of 2019, which is very exciting for us. Since we talked to you last, we've had a very successful fundraiser. I know a few of you were there, and it was a really good time. We had a hypnotist fundraiser, and through that fundraiser and all the things that went with it, we were able to raise $5,375. We've been selling coupon books. We had an online garage sale, so for any of you who's on Bidding Wars and thinks I'm nuts, I was selling people stuff for the Gymnastics Center. It was not my stuff. And through sponsorships, we've managed to raise $21,800 to this point. So as of now, we have raised $30,225 for the Gymnastics Center. We have met with Gregory John, who I know has spoken with council a couple of times on various town projects, and he's going to be working with us securing further grant money in the future, so we're going to be working with him. We have secured a loan for equipment, and we're waiting for final documents for that, so we will be leasing equipment for the space, so we will have a full set of equipment when we open. We're taking possession of the building on the 1st of December, and we'll be doing a cleanup and start getting things moved in through the month of December. And registration for all of our programs are opening on November the 17th. So we have a full slate of programs. Every day of the week, we'll have programs throughout the day. So it's a full-use space, preschool. Just a really quick rundown of some of the things that will be coming, because nobody else has seen this yet. Preschool classes and drop-in, recreational, advanced recreational, competitive, birthday parties, boys-only classes, open and youth drop-in, caregiver, childcare fitness, kinder gym, homeschool drop-in, homeschool badge classes, teen recreational, adult strength and flexibility. And we also have time set aside for any groups that would like to use the space a couple of afternoons during the week as well as in the later evening. So we're really excited. We're here today to, we handed in our business plan, and I hope that it was clear and that there's not too many things that we missed, if there's anything that we missed. But again, we are asking the council and the town if they would be able to support us by the purchase of the floor, which is the major piece of equipment that we need in our gym space. We had also asked for support purchasing the preschool girls motor equipment as well as a bouncy house, all things that we feel are going to be pieces of equipment that would be useful not just for gymnastics, but for all people in the town to be able to use outside of specific gymnastics equipment.
Thank you, Carly. Are there any questions from councillors for Carly? Then we're looking for a motion. Councillor Peterson?
Your Worship, I would move that council consider the request for funding for Strathmore Gymnastics Centre during the 2019 budget discussions, which are upcoming very soon.
Thank you for that, Councillor Peterson. And I just wanted to echo, later on in this meeting, we'll be discussing the meeting dates for our fall budget. So this will be, if the motion carries, it'll be brought forward for us to consider for the 2019 budget.
Okay.
Wanted to thank you for becoming so involved in such a short time. And just to remind the public and anyone who's watching that this goes beyond just gymnastics. It's an indoor recreational facility that goes far beyond just a gymnastics team. And it's something that I know a lot of people in the community have talked about, that they want to keep an indoor recreational facility like that going. So we will give it the consideration that it deserves, for sure. And I appreciate your time. And also the fact that you don't even have children in the program anymore. And
Yeah.
that you still threw yourself into it. So I appreciate that. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for clarification, can you remind me how much of an ask you were looking for?
Yeah, so the floor, we were asking for $25,000. The gross motor equipment is $5,000, and the bouncy house is $3,500.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. I know Councillor Montgomery's really interested in the bouncy house. So, Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question for you, though. How soon would you need to know about this, because you are opening, right? Like,
So we did take that into account in our lease agreement that we have signed. So we've actually got 2 separate leases that we have. So the floor is in a separate lease. So if we are able to get support for this, we're able to take care of that and have that paid off without having to put everything into one pot. So we're still fine. We have equipment that that will be in the place for opening.
okay, and I have one more quick comment to her. Like, because of initiatives like this, like, our community is better, and I really want to thank you guys for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. Councillor Sobel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just deal with the first issue first, and that was actually my request for a business case, and I spent some time. I just got back from holidays, but while I was there, I was reading your business case, and I just want to let you know that I was really impressed. I've owned a business in the past where I did a business case, and I found it to be a very valuable thing. So anytime I'm dealing with any kind of potential business, it doesn't matter who it is, my first question is, do you have a business case? And I'm hoping that this is going to be of some value to you folks, because the way you've laid it out and the work that's gone into it, it lays a path for this, and I hope I feel more comfortable with where your group is going after reading that, and I hope you guys do as well. And that's one of the main ingredients, is it's for you guys to feel more comfortable and have a path to go on.
I won't take any of the acclaim for that. I'll pass it on to the people who
whoever
worked
was
council's hours on
responsible
that.
for it did a
Absolutely.
great job on it, I think, anyway. And I'm just a little concerned about the timing on this as well. You're comfortable with waiting some time for this thing? I don't want you guys to lose the momentum there, that's all, because I think this is a great project. You guys are a nonprofit organization. I think it's really important, and for the the hours that you folks are putting into this thing for our community, I think you should all be applauded for this, and I think I've heard for years how people wanted something of this nature in our community. For the little ones, especially, and I just think it's a great project. I wonder if I know Mel's not here. Maybe our CAO could respond. Are you able to give us some kind of a forecast, some kind of a date where we would be able to deal with this issue? I'm trying to give them some kind of a timetable as to when they can expect a yay or a nay.
Yes, if I may, through the chair, your worship, we're asking council tonight to set
Yes.
some budget meeting dates. We would hope and anticipate that council will be in a position to pass the budget in the first meeting in December, which I believe is the 5th. So a few weeks away. Thank you.
Would you be comfortable with that?
We are comfortable with that.
And that's all my questions, and thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you for the presentation, and Your Worship. In addition to the lengthy list that you provided, one of the gaps in our community, one of the significant gaps in our community is recreational opportunities for people with special needs. And so I know that you spoke to this once before, but could you just elaborate?
Absolutely. So we are looking to make this obviously a wheelchair accessible facility. We have had people in the past in this facility in wheelchairs who are able to use it, but that's something that we are definitely looking at doing. We've also reached out to like community supports and AIM to say that we do have space and that we would like it to be able to be used for those types of groups and accessible to those groups.
So following up from that, then just to ascertain, there are grants available and more that are coming available the 1st of January for exercise equipment for people with special needs, and you would have room
Yes.
to accommodate this?
Yes, we will have room to accommodate.
So as a value-added component to the existing program? it would
Yes.
be good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, then we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you for your presentation, and we'll give it every consideration when we're in our budget meetings.
Great, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Item 7.5, Bow Valley College funding request, page 80. And Ms. Sawatsky, are you speaking to this?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. At our last regular council meeting, council was approached by Bow Valley College, and they requested funding from council in the amount of $40,000. Council then asked the group to bring back more information and proof of support to their next council meeting. Council has received that information. It's in the package. Just a note that the college is now seeking $34,000 from council rather than the $40,000 that they initially indicated. And it's coming to council tonight for a decision. A recommendation is that council refer this matter to the 2019 budget discussions.
Thank you, Ms. Sawatsky. Are there any questions for Jennifer? Deputy Mayor Bauer.
I don't have a question. Your worship, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I have a
just-
question for
Just a question
clarification,
first, then we'll come back to you, Deputy Mayor Bauer, if that's all right. Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, through the chair, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this question, but I note in the October 29th letter to address to Mayor Fuel and Council, in the third paragraph, it notes that the county is currently working on a strategic plan and financial commitment is premature, and we recognize that, but our planning years run very consistent. We also are in the planning stage. And then I just want to bring your attention, because this is where my question is, to the next paragraph. It says that, according to the previous Director of Regional Stewardship in 2016, when the college initiated the SIF grant, the town agreed to support up to $50,000, and this money was never received. I have no recollection of any such money ever being promised by this council, Your Worship, but I stand to be corrected.
Your Worship, I can shed a little bit of light on that. So, not a lot, though. I did do a search of our minutes and our records, and I did not find any official motion of council. What's the word?
Yes.
For the
I did the
50,000.
same. I did the same. Thank you to Legislative Services. And in addition to that, what I do recall in a previous ask was consideration about putting, if they moved the building, putting in, I believe it was access to high-speed internet, and that was what the money was designated for, and council did not make a decision relevant to that. At least that was what I showed in my notes. So, thank you, Your Worship. That's all I have.
Thank you for that, Councillor Peterson. It's a very important point because for the public and anyone, I guess, watching at home again, the three of you, anytime we make a decision concerning money and do make a commitment to spend that kind of money, it does have to come forward in a motion and a vote. So if there's no record of that officially, then this becomes a nebulous kind of a statement. So we have to obviously be very careful. I appreciate you bringing that up, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Sobel.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I was actually had my line on for two issues, both of which were just covered, but I want to just take them one step further, and that is in regards to the latter point, the $50,000 that was not received. I wonder if we can return correspondence to Bow Valley and just ask for clarification of that. I'd like to, I just want to make sure that we're not missing something and that, just to be very clear on what the situation was, they appear to have some information on that. And the other issue that I was going to bring up as well was in regards to paragraph 3 of that, I'm good with the motion, putting it over to discussions, but I'm going to have a hard time voting on supporting this without knowing what the county is doing. So just as a comment, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Deputy Mayor Bauer? You think you're going to go through the evening and do okay, but it doesn't work that way.
Thank you, Your
Deputy
Worship.
Mayor Bauer.
I move that council consider the request for funding for the Bow Valley College Entrepreneur Center during the 2019 budget discussions.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say that at this time, while I think that this campus is a significant value, I believe that they still do have some work to do with regards to their partnership processes in the community. The last time they appeared before us, they said that they had the support of Siksika Nation, which was a major consideration when they initially filed for their funding, and when the minister wrote the notice about the funding that Bow Valley received, a lot of it was based on, or some of it was based on their partnership with Siksika, which Siksika later said that they had never been consulted. And they did say that they had a partnership and that they would bring forward hopefully as one of their support. I don't see that letter here. The other partner that I spoke to was the Wheatland Further Education Society. They had indicated that some of the of their book of business, a significant portion of their book of business, they felt might be being usurped by Bow Valley College. I don't see that addressed here, and neither do I see a letter from Wheatland Further Education Society in support of them. So for those reasons, at this point, I can't support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that input. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, I am willing to consider this funding request during our budget meetings, but I do want to point out that we also asked them to clarify why we were asked for more than Airdrie, and I still don't think that they've given us enough clarification because we still are coming in ahead of Airdrie. So that concerns me.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Jennifer, I'm wondering if we do provide or send a letter to Bow Valley College concerning Councillor Sobel's comments, if the letter could also address Councillor Peterson and Councillor Cox's comments concerning the partnerships as well as the contribution of the City of Airdrie. And that might be a good way to, if that information also gets to them, then maybe it can come to us in time for the budget meetings. That would be very good. Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. I don't think we need any more discussion from what I'm seeing. All in favor? And opposed? So we have 2 opposed and 4 in favor. Motion carries. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.6, Family Center Brine Leak Repairs, page 101. Tracy Simpson. I was just going to say Mark Pretz left, but you're not him.
Mark is on vacation, so I get to stand in for him.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you. So, thank you. I won't tell him that. So we're here today to talk to council about approving funds to cover the repairs that were done in September at the Family Center. As you're aware, in early September, we noticed a brine leak in our refrigeration system. Upon investigation with our refrigeration contractors, we found the leak under the plant in one of the very last lines that we pressure tested on the Gold Arena. The good news with having to test all the lines is we know there's no more breaks in any other 100 lines under the pad. The line was repaired by removing the concrete, repairing the piece of pipe, and relaying the concrete. This repair total cost was $39,086.50. That include all the labor and materials from our contractors. This was definitely a good case scenario. The leak was small, it was contained, and it was easily fixed within a 2-week period from investigation to completion. In addition, the town incurred $4,000 in overtime staffing costs to remove the ice and put it back in after the repairs were done, and a total loss of $15,580 in revenue. The leak it is not something that can be easily identified, as we can't see the pipes under the concrete, so it is a hard thing to do preventative maintenance on as the years go on. We are happy with the work that was done, and we're confident that this is a one-time thing and not going to be an ongoing issue with our pipes under the pad. We'd like to take a quick moment to thank a couple people. The fire department provide lots of hands-on labor to help us get the ice out quickly and then back in, so that we only lost 2 weeks of operating, as well as the Village of Standard, who stepped up and installed their ice earlier than expected, and so that took some pressure off of our user groups, and so we would like to thank them for their support. So at this time, we're asking council to approve funds to be drawn from 2 reserves, $20,000 to be drawn from the Family Center Equipment Reserve, and $19,086.50 to be drawn from Financial Stabilization Reserve.
Thank you for that report, Tracy. Are there any questions for Tracy? Seeing no questions, we have Councillor Peterson.
I'd move that council approve $39,086.50 for expenses associated with the September 2018 Family Center brine leak and repair, with $20,000 to be drawn from the Family Center Equipment Reserve and $19,086.50 to be drawn from Financial Stabilization Reserve.
Thank you for that, Councillor Peterson. Any discussion? Councillor Montgomery.
I meant to ask this before, but I had to check something. Can you just tell me why there was 2 different sources for the calcium chloride?
Yeah, so typically we use StarTech as they're our main service provider and our contracted refrigeration techs. They ran out of the product, and so we went to a second source.
Okay, thank you.
We used a lot.
Deputy Mayor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm happy to see that there's a Family Center Equipment Reserve Fund. What is the total of that fund, or has that fund have you added amounts in there, or a percentage of the revenue from the Family Center each year to bring it up to a certain state?
So currently, there's just over 20,000, which is why we're only pulling the 20,000 from the reserve. I can't remember what year it was, but it was a number of years ago. We purchased a new Olympia machine, and that was pulled from the reserve, so it got depleted right down, and so we're just slowly rebuilding and just haven't got to a point where we could fully cover something like this.
And so will council be asked to put money into that reserve, or is that something that the Family Center does on its own?
Nope, that'll be part of our budget discussions about the facility reserve funds in the upcoming weeks.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bauer. Any other discussion? You've all heard the motion on the floor. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you, Tracy. Which brings us to 7.7, 2019 budget meeting dates on page 107. Jennifer.
Thank you, Worship. It's that time of year again, and we need to set some dates for our budget discussions. We have proposed a few dates. I know that council has discussed some issues with these dates, so we're hoping that we can set at least a couple of dates tonight within the next few weeks.
Did you want us to mention our Okay, my concern, I've mentioned it to council, and I think you're already aware, November 19th is bad for me. That'll be the last time a Monday will be bad for me.
November 13th, sorry, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson.
Sorry, Your Worship. November 13th, I'm in, I have previous commitments until, I probably wouldn't be able to get here till about 6:30.
Is that something, are the other councillors okay with that date? Is that something she could join us in progress, or?
I'd move it to later.
So 6 to 9
I
then?
can do my best to be here, but if I can't, like, I'm just fine with you doing whatever you need to do. I understand.
So council's okay with that date, November 13th, 6 to 9?
May I?
That's better for you, isn't it? Okay, so what about November 27th? How is that?
I've been wanting to.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Corbeil. Why do I do that to you all the time?
Thank you, Worship. Mondays are bad for me, I'm not gonna lie. The 13th I can do, but the other ones are just tough because 5 o'clock is pretty rough. I don't have childcare until 5:30. Tuesday, I don't know if everybody else is good Tuesdays. Tuesdays are better for me than Mondays, but if not, like I said, I'll try and work something out. 5 is tough.
And the 27th is Tuesday?
Yes, Your Worship, we could do the 20th and the 27th, and if we need to, we can move them back to 6 PM for both those dates as well.
I have an engagement on the 20th for the handy bus, 7:30.
Can you miss it? What about the 22nd? Oh, never mind.
So the 27th is intact. I think we can do the 27th, but do we want to bump that to 6 PM? The 27th is a Tuesday, correct? So are we good with moving that from 6 to 9 so that it helps Councillor Corbeil?
Even 5:30.
Even 5:30, we go 5:30 to 8:30?
I probably can't get here till 6:30 that
Okay, why don't we go 6 to 9 as a suggestion, and then Councillor Peterson would only miss a half hour or so.
Better not do anything.
It's a lot of pressure on us. So those two dates look fine so far. We just need, I'm hoping we need, or can have it as a replacement for the November 19th. Jennifer?
Okay, what about the 15th? We have, so the 13th, 15th, and then 27th.
Denise and I have revamped house on the 15th. And you want us to. Everything else. It's the only day that's not available for me.
Again, it's 6 to 9. I might be a little. Yeah, I got that. Oh, that's the 20th, yeah, right. Sorry.
What's the handy bus?
I don't know.
So the 22nd will work? Will the 22nd work?
Yeah, I can't do the 20th. Oh, sorry.
Do we need to get this done before the end of November?
December 3rd.
Councillor Corbeil thinks she might be able to make it on Monday, the 26th, if we go 6 to 9.
Or what did, right.
That would be good? The 26th is okay, and you're sure you can handle that on the Monday? Okay, so it looks like we have November 13th, November 26th, and November 27th, from 6 to 9 on those 3 nights. Does that work for everybody? 2 days in a row. That's why the public is loving us.
6 to 9, all 3 days.
6 to 9 would be the times. It's a long even. Sorry, you can't? Okay.
What about the Saturday morning of that day's gone anyway, that's a Santa Claus parade. Still bring it down here.
Could we use the regular council date of a Wednesday and have it on the November 28th? People are used to Wednesdays in their schedule. Could that work?
Yeah, what's wrong?
Yeah, that's good, that's good.
I cannot. Teachers meeting.
Well, can you skip that?
Is that one you could miss for?
Because it's our organizational, it's our
Almost worked.
It's already been rescheduled.
I can try to get out of the handy bus thing. Confirm that.
Yeah. That's good. Your worship, if I may suggest, so why don't we go right now with November 13th and 27th?
Okay.
For sure, and then if Councillor Montgomery perhaps would like to get back to us, we can set that date after.
Okay, thank you.
Your worship,
Councillor Cox.
through your worship administration, will you send us out reminders?
Of course, your worship.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Which means we can move on to item 8, committee reports, 8.1 reports from committees on which councillors sit. Councillor Sobel.
Make a motion on that council accept the minutes from the following committees for Information Sustainability Committee meeting on September 17th, 2018, Traffic Advisory Committee meeting on September 18th, 2018, and the Downtown Vitality Committee meeting on May 15th, 2018.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on that motion? All in favor? And that motion is carried.
Your worship?
Councillor Peterson.
I would like to move is this the time for report to council? Can we move that now too? Or should we wait? Sorry, out of order.
Jennifer, the one from Councillor Peterson comes in at 8.2?
Your worship, it should have been 8.1, but that's okay, it can be 8.2.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peterson?
On behalf of Councillor Corbeil and myself, I'd like to move the report to council for the WDEPS meeting November 6, 2018. And just a note that we're planning a service recognition to be held in December, and that the 2019 fire dispatch requisition will not change. Thank you.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor? That motion is carried. Item 9, items directly related to council. I don't believe we have any. And that brings us to item 10, bylaws. 10.1, bylaw number 18-09 to amend the land use bylaw number 14-11, cannabis stores, page 119.
Your worship?
Yes,
I
Councillor
may
Peterson.
declare conflict?
Yes, thank you. Councillor Peterson is declaring a potential conflict of interest, so she'll be stepping out. Oh, it is? Okay, thank you. So she's declaring a conflict of interest, so she's stepping out. Councillor Montgomery?
I'm ready with a motion.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery.
I will move that council give second reading to bylaw number 18-09.
Thank you. You've heard that motion on the floor. It's at second reading, so is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Cox?
Yeah, I just need a clarification question. The only thing that we're amending is the opposite side of the highway, correct?
Mr. Fisher, did you want to step up and just clarify?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the separation distance of 125 meters does not apply if it's separated by Highway 1. So there is 0 separation distance.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've, Councillor Corbett?
Is this a time for a comment?
Yes.
Okay. I do kind of have a comment. There's a liquor store across that street as well that has liquor written right across it. I'm not sure I'm understanding why we would need to change it when the students in that, I'm not sure if the students even is the issue that the students in the playground are going to be seeing the signage of it? Is that the issue?
Mr. Fisher?
I guess I do have a clarification.
I'm not sure that I can answer that question, but I will try to provide a little bit of history and context. So back in April of this year, I presented a report to council about what Calgary was doing, what Alberta Health was recommending, and Calgary Health and the Liquor Gaming Commission. So here's the issue. Liquor and Gaming has passed a regulation saying there should be a separation distance between a school and a cannabis store. We don't have regulations respecting liquor stores in schools. So moving forward, rather than going with the 150 meters, or the 300 meters as suggested by health, and which some municipalities have now adopted with, well, it's a rabbit hole, because I think Calgary has 89 appeals. Last year, they had a total of 117, 89 appeals just on cannabis stores. I mean, the amount of work involved is phenomenal. So looking at that and knowing what we knew at the time, we were allowed by the cannabis regulation to set our own standard. And by the time the report came back in June, July, to amend the land use bylaw, I said, let's try to keep it simple. Let's make it 125 meters across the board with the exception of the downtown school. So that's how we landed there. Between the time it came up for first reading and the time it came for public hearing, I found that there had been some amendments to the Municipal Government Act in July that fortunately didn't affect anything that we had done, but it's basically, the Municipal Government Act is now saying, if you have established a provision in your bylaw, that provision prevails and it's not variable even by the Subdivision Development Appeal Board. So the issue then came up, well, liquor stores on the south side of the highway are not affected. Why shouldn't cannabis stores? So my instructions were, write a bylaw that kind of tries to align these. But the reason that they were separated to begin with there was clear direction from the province that they should be dealt with separately. So that's how we got there. Does that answer your question? Sort of? Yeah. So, okay, so there's two sides of it. And I've tried to address that in the report. Traditionally, all separation distances in the Municipal Government Act and the Subdivision Development Regulation, which deals with setbacks from sewage lagoons, sanitary landfill stations, and all that kind of stuff, sour gas facilities, they're always based on a straight separation distance. One of the discussions around cannabis stores has been particularly in Calgary, it was a walking distance. But clearly, we've got direction. I think I can say this with high certainty about Alberta Health, and less so with Alberta Liquor and Gaming. They're also looking at it from the perspective, is it reasonably visible? If I look out the window, or if I'm on a schoolyard, is the cannabis store across the street, and is it visible? So there are, and I think that was pretty clear from Alberta Health's presentation. So, this is before you for consideration, and I'm not sure that I can add a whole lot more to it.
Thank you. Are they Councillor Montgomery?
No, I was...
Deputy Mayor Bauer?
Thank you. Werner, Your Worship, I just have one more question. Just for clarification, the signage that is going to be available for us to see will not have any pictures on it. It will only have letters of the words of the store. Is that correct? There's no graphics allowed?
To the best of my knowledge, it's going to be governed by Alberta Gaming and Liquor Commission's handbook.
Yes.
And I believe that to be true.
Okay.
I cannot,
So
until I see the
essentially, the kids will be able to read the sign, but there will be nothing else on that sign that will promote or enhance that it is influence a buyer.
Yeah, I won't say drink Pepsi or Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you.
Point of phrase.
Thank you. Did you have?
No, I'm just waiting for the third.
Oh, okay. You're faking me out there again. Okay, we have a motion on the floor for second reading to bylaw number 18-09. All in favor? Motion is carried. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will move that council give third reading to bylaw number 18-09.
Thank you, and that motion's on the floor. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Which brings us to bylaw number 18-20, to amend the land use bylaw number 14-11. And do we want to make a motion to bring her back? No. Western Irrigation District and Marigold Library Headquarters, Chuck Proctor. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Proctor.
Hello,
Page
everybody.
124.
So I just have a brief presentation for you this evening. This is a first reading bylaw with a recommendation to set up a public hearing in December. So an application has been submitted for a land use redesignation. This is a rezoning for 4 parcels south of Highway 1. They're currently urban reserve and light industrial, and they want to go to commercial highway and public service district. I just have a very brief first reading summary. These are the parcels up for application. There's 4 parcels there. There's Highway 1 and, yeah. So the 5.39 acre proposed site, the kind of central one there in the middle, commercial highway, is proposed for a joint use Marigold Library System and Western Irrigation District headquarters building. The parcel to the left is kind of proposed to be left as a more natural area, pathway park kind of thing. And then the other 2 parcels are proposed for future highway commercial development. More details on these lands are expected during the subsequent development permit process if council grants favorable support to this bylaw later. Staff support the application, recognizing that highway commercial land is appropriate. Highway commercial designation is appropriate for these lands. We've been holding highway commercial development to kind of a higher development standard than your light industrial district. We have an opportunity to achieve an action priority of council, and that's the beautification of the Trans-Canada Highway on these lands. This is just kind of a conceptual idea of what they want to do for the joint use headquarters building. You know, at the land use stage, this is kind of a concept that they're proposing. Nice big building there with lots of landscaping and parking and trees. Civic Works, the WID, and the Marigold Library held an open house on September 13 here in the town hall. We had some folks turn up and a lot of good conversations. Everything's been kind of summarized in that report. I'm just briefly going over it right now. After the open house, information was on display at the town hall and at the public library. There are still opportunities for folks to submit surveys and comments after that open house. Again, Civic Works received some great feedback. I'm going to summarize everything when I come back to do public hearing, and we'll be using this feedback moving forward in the development permit process if council grants favorable consideration. So again, future planning and reviews expected during the next process, which is development permit. And tonight we're just asking for a first reading to bylaw 18-20 and that council hold a public hearing for bylaw 18-20 on December 5th, 2018. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Sobel?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd move that council give first reading to bylaw number 18-20.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor? Motion is carried. Councillor Montgomery?
I will move the council hold a public hearing for bylaw number 18-20 on December 5th, 2018.
Thank you, and you've all heard that motion. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Proctor.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council.
Item 10.3, bylaw number 18-25, to amend the land use bylaw number 14-11, driveways and RV parking, page 131. Welcome back, Werner.
So you may recall earlier this year, we talked about parking. Because obviously there's a complaint. The next thing you know, but it the best solution I think that proposes your yard. I think probably important. So, but on drive it very quickly on rental landlord may not look at conventional consideration. There are going to be some downsides and there are going to be some upsides. There certainly will be the risk that more people will be parking on the street so they can park their RV in the driveway all winter, but that's part of the overall picture.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Councillor Cox.
I'm ready with the motion, Your Worship.
Thank you.
I move that council give first reading to bylaw 18-25.
Thank you for that. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. So we have 6 in favor, 1 opposed. And Deputy Mayor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that council hold a public hearing for bylaw number 18-25 on Wednesday, December 5th, 2018.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bauer. All in favor? Opposed? And it's 1 opposed, 6 in favor. Motion is carried. That brings us to item 10.4, bylaw number 18-26 to amend fees bylaw number 12-21, cemetery and utilities, page 138. Ms. Sawatsky.
Thank you, Your Worship. Administration, as part of the budget process, recommends new fees to council. In this bylaw amendment, fees bylaw amendment, there are 3 schedules being recommended to council. The first is utilities, and our Director of Corporate Services, Mel Tiede, is here to speak to that.
Thank you, Ms. Sawatsky. Welcome back, Mel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just have some additional information prepared subsequent to the...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The fees and charges pertaining to the utilities and the 5% adjustment relates to the town of Strathmore's long-term financial plan. One of the pillars in the financial plan is to have full cost recovery within the utilities departments, and that the utilities not be funded from taxes. So with that in mind, just to recap recent history, in 2016, the utilities department had a deficit of $1.1 million approximately. In 2017, the utilities department had a combined deficit of $600,000. Our budget for 2018 had a planned deficit of $590,000. With the proposed 5% adjustment, it will move the town much closer to a break-even situation. The sanitary sewer area had some long-term debt that is being retired this current year. So we'll have a savings of approximately $600,000 in principal and interest improvement over 2018 and prior years. We anticipate with those 2 changes, the 5% adjustment and the debt payment completion, that we will be in a position to start to put some reserve money away for the utility areas.
Thank you, Mr. Tiede. Are there any questions for Mel? Councillor Peterson. Thank you, Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, I would move that council give first reading to bylaw number 18-26, fees bylaw amendment bylaw.
Thank you for that. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? Motion is carried. Counselor Corbeil?
I move the council give second reading to bylaw number 18-26, fees bylaw, amendment bylaw.
Thank you. We have a motion for second reading. Is there any discussion on that? And all in- Counselor Montgomery.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mel, for this information. I think it's important that the public knows that, we are trying to, pay for, that the utility costs are going directly to pay for their utilities, and due to, I guess, funding constraints from the province, it is in our best interest to move towards where we are self-funding these things. And I think it's also important for people to know that compared to other communities in the area, we are providing the same services for a fairly competitive price. So I think that that's worth mentioning, so thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Montgomery. Counselor Peterson.
I think that my question is connected, but Councillor Montgomery may rule me out of order. I have a question on page 144, under the bench and tree dedication. I like how this is laid out, and I think it's such a great idea. And the reason I'm asking the question is that I just had a question from a constituent about wanting to put in a park bench, a memorial park bench, but not in the cemetery, but in one of our public parks. So could this then carry over into our other public spaces?
So yes, Your Worship, this fee actually applies to all memorial benches and trees, and they can be planted wherever they like, wherever approved,
Right.
within town limits. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that clarification, Counselor Peterson and Jennifer. Appreciate that. So we have a motion for second reading. All in favor? Motion is carried. Counselor Corbeil?
I move the council give unanimous consent to a third reading of bylaw number 18-26, fees bylaw, amendment bylaw.
Thank you for that, Counselor Corbeil. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? Motion is carried. Counselor Cox?
I move that council give third and final reading to bylaw 18-26, fees bylaw, amendment bylaw.
Thank you for that. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you very much, councillors, and Ms. Sawatsky, I appreciate your clarification. We're on item 11. I don't believe we have any urgent business. Item 12, are there any questions between councillors and/or council statements? Seeing none. Administrative inquiries, number 13. Ms. Sawatsky?
Thank you, Your Worship. We have one inquiry tonight from Councillor Peterson. It reads, in 2015, the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action were published and supported by the Canadian government. 9 calls to action were identified by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities as containing the word municipal or all levels of government in them. FCM has encouraged all municipalities to engage in the work of reconciliation. My inquiry is, what plans, if any, are in place for the town of Strathmore to address the calls to action as they pertain to our municipality? Specifically, call to action number 57, which states, in part, we call upon municipal governments to provide education to public servants on the history of Aboriginal peoples, including the history and legacy of residential schools. This will require skills-based training in intercultural competency, conflict resolution, human rights, and anti-racism.
Thank you for that. Councillor Peterson?
I just want to acknowledge, Your Worship, that Director Trent West has already done considerable work, and the purpose of the inquiry was just to build something with more permanence into our program, if possible, and to leave it with administration for a while. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Peterson, and thank you, Mr. West, for becoming involved, not stepping up. Thank you. No other administrative inquiries? Then I'm looking for a motion to go in camera. Councillor Corbeil?
I move to go in camera.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And we're going in camera at 8:44 p.m.